Welcome to Let's Thrive Postpartum.
Hey, Mom, welcome back. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Ashley. We're so happy that you're here. We have got a special conversation today because we are talking about Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there in the world. There's lots of things, though, that we've realized, Kelly and I, that go into Mother's Day. And I think Kelly had some different ideas that have come up for her that she's been thinking about. What do you think, Kelly?
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day. Exactly. It really does bring a lot of emotions, not only as a mother, if you've just recently had a child, but when you're doing it with postpartum depression and anxiety, it just has a different feel. And so I think first we want to talk about realizing there's a lot of feelings that can be tied to Mother's Day. And one of the keys is to being honest with yourself about what you really need so that you can feel good on Mother's Day, and then celebrating yourself where you are, right? We are all in different places at the moment. We might not be all where we envisioned we would be mentally on Mother's Day. So, Ashley, let's talk about feelings. There are so many feelings. If you look anywhere in the stores, everybody wishes you happy Mother's Day, and it's the best sentiment, but it can also come with different feelings.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's so interesting to think about, again, Mother's Day is sort of portrayed as this really happy day. And for a lot of people, it's not. For people who have lost their mom, for people who had an experience with a mom that, really wasn't ideal, for those who are hoping to become moms, for those who are currently moms and really struggling, Mother's Day is really, really hard. And I want to make sure that we give the acknowledgement out there that this day, while really joyous for some, can also be incredibly difficult for others. And that includes moms that are experiencing postpartum depression and anxiety, because there can be a lot of guilt. And why is today not feeling so great? And it's just, I don't know. It's hard.
It is. And I think you said it great a while ago when you and I were just chatting about expectations. A lot of times as a mom, we have expectations of what motherhood should look like, what we should be doing, how our experience should feel. In Mother's Days, especially if this is your first Mother's Day, I had expectations of what I felt like I should feel like. Maybe not what I should be doing, but I remember Mother's Days with my mom growing up. My mother's my favorite person in the world. And we just spent time together and that happiness. And so when I didn't feel happy my first Mother's Day, had nothing to do with not loving my child, but those feelings can make you feel ashamed, not right. My expectations weren't met for myself. And it was a weird feeling.
Yeah. How'd you navigate through that? Like, what'd you do?
I think I had an honest conversation with my husband about here's what I needed. And then I just went with the shame and the guilt. I needed time away to find me, have a day by myself. Let me just be myself for a day. And just took the shame with it. And it also felt amazing to have a day for what I needed to do for myself. What did you do for your first Mother's Day?
So my first Mother's Day, also mixed bag of feelings. And I was telling you earlier, Kelly, like I saw this photo recently. It was a little video, like short video snapshot of my first Mother's Day sitting in a hammock and holding my son.
Sounds
and I
beautiful.
remembered, sounds beautiful. Yeah. But all I could think of when I looked at that picture was, oh my gosh, that was the week after he had been hospitalized for bronchiolitis.
Oh, no.
It was one night, and he was fine. It was just to double check because he was so little. He was like he was just 5 months old. But that was so hard and so still like top of mind that I honestly have no idea what I did that first Mother's Day. I know that there's that picture of it, and that picture of it reminds me of a time where I was so anxious and so scared and worried, even though everything was totally fine. I have no idea what we did other than I have that picture of us sitting in the hammock.
I'm glad he was okay. right? I'm
Mm-hmm.
glad that was something that turned out not to be a big deal. But I can see when your 5-month-old son is put in the hospital overnight, and if you have anxiety, that just being a trigger and bringing you whole down a different path. I mean, I can
Yeah.
see how that would make it so
Yeah.
much worse. How
I
scary.
know. It makes it so much harder. I do remember like the next year saying, you know what? Mother's Day, kind of like you, Mother's Day is for me, right? It's supposed to be celebrating a mother. What do I want to do to celebrate? I wanted to like have breakfast in bed and in the quiet and have my husband, I think, took my son out for a very long walk and play date or something.
Yes. Good
And
for
I had
you.
some time to myself. And that was what I needed. And guess what? It's okay that that's what you need is some time to yourself.
It is. And how did you figure out like that? Let's be honest with what we need. How did you figure out, okay, in this moment, this is what's going to feel good to me?
Well, I think I asked that exact question. I was like, what would feel good? Like, what would make me feel restored? I love the word like restorative because it's like rested, but refilled. Like, what
Yes.
is
And I
going
feel
to
like
fill up? Yeah.
as a mother, we need that.
Yes. We are pouring from a cup that somehow never seems to quite be empty. And but there's got to be times that we're able to like fill that back up. And so I think that's what I ask myself is what's going to feel good? What's going to make me feel like rested and appreciated? And I was like, you know what? Yes. Bring me some breakfast in bed. I would love to like give my son a kiss and a hug. Recently last year, like with my daughter, kiss and a hug, but I want coffee in bed in the silence. And that's just what is going to make me feel really good.
That sounds lovely. Just a day of silence,
A
which
day of
isn't something
silence.
that doesn't really happen very often, right? Especially with 2 children under the age of 5.
Yeah, never. Um, so yeah, it's just, I think it's just about saying, can you say what's going to feel good and what you need in that moment, and then just be okay with it.
And let's talk about yes, I'm with you completely. And if you're a mom who doesn't have a partner, if you're a
Mm-hmm.
single mom, how do you be honest with what you need to feel good and kind of find some of those moments for yourself if you don't have the ability to step away or for
Oh
someone
yeah.
to kind of be there with you, right? We both had, partners in this relationship that could take a burden for us. But if you don't have
Mm-hmm.
it, what recommendations do you have?
Well, we were talking about that the other day of like finding little moments of joy. And I
The
think
glimmers.
little glimmers. I love that phrase. I don't know who said it first, but it is just wonderful. And it's so true. Like a day doesn't have to be all good or all bad, right? When one bad thing happens, like I tell my 5-year-old, one bad thing happens, doesn't make the whole day bad. It's just a bad moment. But the same is for the good things. Like a good day overall can be made up of small moments of joy. And so for moms out there who are having a hard time figuring out like it's not possible for me to have a day by myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? What are little ways of having these like glimmers and these small moments of joy that allow you to celebrate you, right? Like during nap time, painting your toenails or having, a coffee with some extra special like steamed milk or something like that, or sitting in the sun or going for a walk. I don't know. What other like
I
what
did
other
the same
small
thing.
joys come to your mind?
I remember I was going to therapy for help. And they asked me that question, what makes you happy in the day? And I had no idea what I could do that happy. So I had to make a list on my phone, sit down one day and be like, what makes me happy? And what makes me happy is to sit on my front porch swing and listen to the podcast, My Favorite Murder. I feel like they're my friends. I've never met them, but I'm obsessed with them. And that brings me 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever, of joy. And
Yeah.
so even if you just have to sit down and make a list of, I have 3 minutes, what can I do that makes me feel like me? I really
Mm-hmm.
had to keep a list on my phone because if I had 10 minutes, I had no idea what to do with myself. Do I do the
Yes.
dishes? Do I do self-care? What's my glimmer for the moment? And so I recommend if you don't have a list in your head to write one. just because I had problems remembering. You can be happy. What makes you happy?
Yeah.
What is that? Coffee and my favorite murder.
Yep. And what a great idea to have an actual list. I would even say like type it out and print it out, because
Great idea.
as you and I know, like sometimes in these really hard moments when you're overwhelmed, your brain is not exactly firing on all cylinders. And it's hard to say, okay, what's my list of things I need to think of something. If you've got a list that's like lives somewhere on your fridge, somewhere in your bedroom, then if you've got a couple minutes, you could look at it and be like, I can do 2 of these right now. And it's 2 of my favorite things.
Yes. And just that little bit, you're right, brings that happiness moment in. If that's all you have this Mother's Day is 3 minutes at some point, those 3 minutes can make your day so much better. If it's something that really makes you happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
The other coin toss on this, let me ask you about this one, is social media. So social media can be great, right? You can slip through, you can see your friends, you can see what's happening. You can look at inspirational quotes. I got a lot of postpartum depression ideas to get help for myself on social media. But then there's also that Mother's Day expectation of everybody posting their happy, loving family and how life is great. And when you're already struggling, I think I ended up having to decide to stay off that day. That was not my glimmer moment. Like that was away. Any thoughts on social media and impacts?
Oh my goodness. Yes. Social media. It's a double-edged sword. There are so many positive resources and information and things that feel uplifting and good. And that's great. And then there's the other side where there's things that make you feel guilty, that make you feel inadequate, that make you compare yourself to other people. I mean, I do it myself all the time. I'm looking and I am so aware of it now that I'll look at something and I'll say, oh, interesting, Ashley, that's a little feeling of jealousy that popped up. All right, that's not good. We're gonna shut this off for a while. And so with social media, we're being fed these different messages about these snapshots of people's lives. And that is all they are. It is like a literal 1-second photo frame of someone's life. And I think if we can keep reframing it that way to ourselves, that what we're looking at is literally 1 second of someone's day, it can help put things back into perspective of, my life probably has several 1-second moments that look just like this. I don't have a photographer catching them on camera, but everyone does, right? Everyone has 1-second moments of great. And the rest of the time is real life. Where your kids are screaming and you're crying and you're going through like the whole range of emotions. And so I think trying to give yourself that perspective is like things on social media, it's 1 second. It's a 1-second screenshot of their life. And it's not fair to say that their whole life must be just like that, because you would never expect your own life to always look like that. And so if being on social media, if you like practice a little awareness when you're scrolling through and noticing, this makes me feel happy. This makes me feel like curious and like, I want to learn more about this, but this makes me feel jealous and this makes me feel guilty. Now I'm feeling some shame because why doesn't my house look like that? Why don't my kids wear those clothes? That's a sign. It's like, okay, take a break.
Yeah. Why aren't my daughter and I wearing matching outfits and smiling perfectly on our first Mother's Day, sitting in front of a beautiful scene in Charleston and loving life when all I want to do is go be by myself and cry in a corner and right? It's just, it adds a different level of perspective. And I think you're right, realizing what it does to you and just realizing this isn't everybody's day. I'm sure the perfect picture in front of a bridge in Charleston, they were probably screaming 3 minutes beforehand. Or had a meltdown right after, right? Yeah. I'm sure it's just, but it's hard to remember that perspective. And it is a moment.
I know. It is just a moment. I think bringing that kind of awareness and just giving yourself that reminder, giving yourself some grace. And remember, again, like the goal of Mother's Day is you. not all the other moms that are on social media. Mother's Day is about you. And so what do you want? What feels good? What is going to make you be able to celebrate yourself that day? Because that's who it's about. It's about you and no one else.
And I think every one of us needs something different to feel good on this day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you do want to go take the pictures. Maybe you do need time alone. Maybe you need something completely different. But if you're struggling, it's okay to say, this is what I need. Next year may be different, right?
Yeah.
You may want something completely different, but to honor where you are right now. And being a mom is so hard, but being a mom with postpartum depression and anxiety is so much harder. And getting to say, hey, I'm here. I can celebrate the fact that I'm here. I'm doing a great job. I think is key, because I think motherhood is probably harder for you than a lot of moms. And I think you deserve to realize how amazing you are, even if you don't feel like it right now.
Yeah. Yep. Every mom is amazing.
They are. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it's just, I think just to kind of wrap it up, I just want to remind everybody, it's okay to not be okay this Mother's Day. It's okay if you're sad and depressed, or you have all the different emotions going on. But I really just want to tell you that Ashley and I are really proud of you. It's hard, and no one else can really see your struggle or really understand what it feels like, right? We're all on our own unique journey, but I want you to know that we see you and we've been there. And this Mother's Day, we really just want to honor you, because you are amazing and you are not alone. And we really hope that you have an absolutely wonderful Mother's Day. Whatever that means for you, get a glimmer in there. We are thinking about you, and we really hope you'll join us next week. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day, everybody.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode and found it helpful, please be sure to hit subscribe, leave us your feedback, and give us a 5-star review. For even more support, visit us at wethrivepostpartum.com/podcast to sign up for our newsletter and learn more about our community. Remember, you are not alone. With support, you can feel better. Together, let's thrive postpartum.